Hey, I'm sitting in my car, about to eat some sushi from Wegmans. I got the shrimp po' boy volcano roll. Y'all see that? And then I got the shrimp tempura roll. You don't need to know what that looks like. You know what that looks like. But I was just sitting here thinking, like, well, not really thinking, but just reflecting on my motherhood journey with Mother's Day coming up. And I am going to eat this with a fork. So if you see this fork, I'm in the car. I'm not a food reviewer, so I don't have a tray or anything. So the fork is what it's going to be today. Okay? I'm turning 39 this year. And I know as I approach 40 within the next year that I'm going to reflect a lot about stuff. And with Mother's Day coming up, I was just reflecting on my journey to motherhood and the things that I've experienced as a female, health-wise. It's so good. And the last decade of my life has brought me my children and brought me so many different experiences that has really shaped and formed the way that I live my life today. And I just want to share with you guys. When I was 12 years old, started my cycle, and that is where it all began with trying to figure out what is wrong with me. Why are my cycles either heavy when they do come or just don't show up at all? And it took me until I was 25 to get a diagnosis as to what it could possibly be. So I went through a good part of my life not knowing why I had irregular cycles, why my skin was darker in certain places on my body, and just why I had hair growing everywhere. I didn't really have an explanation for that until I turned 25. So I met an endocrinologist at the age of 25 when I really got serious about trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Come to figure out, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is PCOS. And it's very common today. A lot of women have experienced these symptoms. As I was saying, it's a very common diagnosis for a lot of women today. But at the time when I was diagnosed with it, I had to go research everything. But when I went to research it, it talked a lot about different forms of it. And it's like 4 different forms of it. I have the insulin resistance form of it, which explains the darkness around my neck, the darkness under my arms. I tend to have, when I was pregnant, I had gestational diabetes because of the pre-existing PCOS, insulin resistance. And so at that time, I decided that I was going to do a lifestyle change, because as I continued to read about it and learn about it, I then understood that you cannot receive this diagnosis, and if you want to feel better and want your body to do what it's supposed to do normally, you have to change your lifestyle. That's just what you have to do. So that's what I did. That's when my love for cooking really started to come out. I was eating fresh, like every single day. This is when I started cooking every single day. I had my own apartment, so it was easy to do that. And I changed a lot of stuff. And even still to this day, a lot of what I put in my body is a reflection of when I got diagnosed with PCOS at the age of 25 and I changed my lifestyle. That is why I've been able to do what I need to do to accomplish the goals that I need to accomplish, and it's just worked for me. That's my story. That may not be your story. It's my story. But as I decided, you know, Drew and I, we got engaged, and then we got married, and we just decided that, you know, we have a kid, now, okay. But at that time, I was 29 when I got engaged, I think. It's been so long. And we're coming up on 10 years married in August. But I think I was, anyway. And at that point, I had regulated my cycles. I had learned that I was only ovulating from my left ovary. And I had lost weight. My skin was clearer. I had figured out how to beat it. How to beat it, basically. And I was so proud of that because I felt good. And so when we started to think about that, or when we, you know, started to think about children, it was like a no-brainer for me. I was like, okay, well, I've been pretty much doing what I was supposed to do. So, hey, if it happens, it happens. So as we journeyed on through life together, I got pregnant for the first time. And what I read at that time about PCOS and women with progesterone is that we can lack it. And when you're pregnant, progesterone is needed to do a lot of things. One being, keep your cervix closed. And a lot of people know this story. Well, personal, you know, friends and family. If you're my online family, I'm about to tell you the story. I'm not going to go into details about it because someday I will go full-fledged details about this story. But I got pregnant with my first son in 2015. And we lost him in 2015 because my cervix opened prematurely at 20 weeks. I learned a lot about PCOS and pregnancy once I lost Jacob. I also learned that I forget the name of the cervix. I'll drop it right here. But I also learned that was hereditary, and learned that my mom had the same issue. And it was one of the most devastating things that I've ever been through. That is the first time that I had got my heart broken. And I will talk more about that maybe in another video. I'll do story time in another video. But today is about just the journey of motherhood and what I had to go through to get to where I am today with my babies. And after we lost him, we chilled out, healed, grieved, and lived life. And it was one of the most trying times in our relationship because we both were grieving, we both felt things, and we knew we needed to come together on some things, but we were grieving. So, you know, we went to therapy together, but at the end of the day, we ended up doing individual therapy because that's what you needed. Once we figured out everything, the doctors did what they needed to do. They gave us a clearance to try again if we wanted to. So that's when I got pregnant with Jonathan in 2016. And I didn't announce Jonathan's pregnancy on social media because we had already announced about Jacob and that we lost him. And so I was just careful to put that back out there. Of course, close family and friends knew, coworkers knew I had to go to work. But I also had to do things differently early on. I had to get a stitch in my cervix to keep my cervix closed. And I had to do weekly progesterone shots. Remember I talked about that progesterone? I had to do weekly progesterone shots to keep my cervix closed. And I'm going to tell you about that needle. That needle is nothing to play with, okay? I went to the doctor every single week from week 16 until the week that I gave birth at week 36 to get this needle in my behind. And the needle's about that long, and it's a little thick because it's like a serum that comes through it. It's not just like a saline, it's not in saline form. It's a little bit thicker. So it needed to have a little oomph on the needle. So I did that weekly. I also had gestational diabetes with Jonathan and was able to manage it with my diet. I didn't need insulin with him, nothing. So very thankful for that. I was able to manage it with him, and it went away after I had him. But I didn't publicly announce Jonathan's pregnancy until my baby shower, which was 2 weeks before we were scheduled to deliver Jonathan. We delivered Jonathan April 18th. Baby shower was like April 1st or April 2nd. And that's when I told social media that Jonathan was coming. But I've talked to myself during that pregnancy and told myself I want to do everything that I want to do. The doctors are monitoring me. I went weekly, y'all. The doctors are monitoring me. I'm going to do everything that I want to do. Of course, I was scared early on, and eventually I just gave it to God. My relationship with God at that point was so strong. And yes, I questioned him, but when you question him, he then gives you understanding. And it is not what you want to hear every time. It's not. But it's what you need in that moment to heal and to move through the storm. And on the other side of the storm, you know how to navigate it. And that's where I was. And so I fully trusted him. I had to. I was carrying this baby, and I wanted to bring that baby into this world. I had to trust God. So that's what I did. And I lived through that pregnancy, and I did all of the things that I wanted to do and which I could do. We had Jonathan, and I took the stitch out. I had a C-section because I had to have an emergency C-section to get Jacob out quickly. So I had to have a repeat C-section with Jonathan. My doctor, I love my doctor. She was the one who delivered Jacob, and she wanted this baby just as much as we wanted this baby. And she decided to deliver me at 36 weeks. She just did not want me to labor at all. So that's what we did. We delivered Jonathan at 36 weeks. Well, I'm so glad that I had the doctor that I had. And I'm still sitting here talking to y'all. Because I lost so much blood after Jonathan's birth. And I'm so glad that I was still able on the other side of that to have my uterus after all of the blood that I lost. I had Jonathan April 18th. I don't think I came back around until like April 20th, April 21st. And come back around means that I was out of it for a couple of days because they had to give me a blood transfusion. And I did not feel like myself until 2 to 3 days later. I was holding my baby. I wasn't even trying to breastfeed. I didn't try to breastfeed because I couldn't. I didn't have the strength. And that's what formula is for. I wasn't gonna stress myself out about it. That's what it was. But I'm so glad that my doctor took care of me. Even my specialist came in to help my doctor get me back on track. So we brought Jonathan home, little 5-pound baby. And he has been the joy, the absolute joy of our lives. And then we got pregnant with Jordan, 2019, right before anybody knew it was gonna be a pandemic. And I did the same thing, y'all. I went through the same thing weekly, but this time, Drew gave me the weekly injections. And I did not get a second stitch at the bottom of my cervix this time because it was long and closed. But I still had the first stitch up at the top. So I was monitored weekly again, and Drew gave me my weekly injection, which he hated doing. But I was like, we can do this time. Like, you can give me the injection. The nurse showed him how to do it, and he did it. With Jordan, I had gestational diabetes, but this time I had to use insulin. And I went the insulin route because, one, it did not cross the placenta. It only nourished my body so that my body can do what it needed to do to bake the baby. So that's why I went with that. But even still, I still watched what I was supposed to eat, all of those things, and it happened. Going back to that PCOS diagnosis. And on the other side of that, I became pre-diabetic, but I am now fully clean of that. When people ask me, are you guys gonna have a girl? Are you gonna have a girl? Sometimes I want to sit and tell them all of the things that I had to do to get my children here on this earth. But then I realized it's not even worth it, because it's not their business as to what's going on in my uterus to begin with. And while they are being who they are and asking you those questions, you don't have to respond to BS, period. Now, I just told y'all that story, and people still to this day ask me and Drew, are y'all gonna have a girl? Y'all gonna have a girl? I wish people stop asking women what they're going to do with their uterus. You don't know what this woman is going through, what she's been through, and it is insensitive to ask a woman about when she's gonna bear a child. Stop doing it. When I come back around to tell y'all the story about my first son and what we went through in that season and how people treated us, I'm telling y'all it's a story for another day. I'll come back around. But this story today is about just my journey of motherhood as Mother's Day approaches me, and I'm about to turn 39, and I've been in motherhood for the last 10 years. Wow. Wow. And I say 10 years because that's when I got pregnant initially, and so it starts. But ladies, if you have PCOS, I know everybody's story is different, everybody's body is different, but don't let them tell you that you cannot conceive and carry a healthy child. What I will say is, do your research and ensure that the form of PCOS that you have, you are addressing it in what you can, with what you can do with your lifestyle changes, but also ask about the progesterone. And this is happening to women of all colors, okay? That progesterone helps keep your cervix healthy. Ask about it. At week 16 is when you're supposed to start to get it. I'm very thankful for the journey that I've been on. Yes, it was very painful to lose my first son, but all that I've learned along the way and what God has shown me, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And my two earthly babies are my world. I love them dearly. And I enjoy being their mommy. And like today, I took off work because I needed a break. And sometimes I feel guilty for doing that, even with work. But I know that I deserve a break. And I should take a break, even if I don't do nothing. If I sit in the car and talk to you guys and eat grocery store sushi, which is really good, by the way, it's something that makes me happy. But motherhood has changed me forever. And I wouldn't trade my experience at all. I know that some people wouldn't be able to say that, but that's because I'm on the other side of my grief. And everybody's journey and walk is different. And just because that's my experience does not mean that it's going to be your experience. But I hope that I can encourage you in whatever walk or journey that you're in. It may not be bearing children. It just may be life. Go through the experience. What's key here is to learn that on the other side, not to make the same mistake, or on the other side, do some things differently. Or on the other side, have your eyes open, your ears open, so that you can hear and see clearly what the vision is for you. PCOS has been PCOS, and it continues to be PCOS for me. But again, my lifestyle changes have stuck with me since my diagnosis at 25. And I hope my girlies out there with PCOS, you guys are really addressing it and doing what you need to do. It's so much research on it now. And there are supplements. I forgot to mention I did take a supplement at one point to help balance your hormones out. And if you need to go get a little laser, go get a little laser, girl. Get the hair off your face. That's what I did eventually. But you embrace it, right? You embrace it. And that's what I did. I'm living with it. And that's what you have to do. I always hope that these vulnerable moments help someone. And I'm going to keep doing them because, one, I feel like transparency has been my greatest healer. It's not that I feel like it. It has been my greatest healer. I wrote a whole book about it. It's linked in my bio. But for some people, transparency, for those who are not as transparent, listening to someone like me helps them in their quiet moments. And so, hear me out. You can do it. You're gonna do it. And you're going to kick ass doing it. And moms out there, we rock. Moms, aunties, godmoms, we rock. No matter if you bear to get that child here, that child is here, and you're nurturing that child. We rock, ladies. We go through some things. I share part of that story with y'all, but I ain't tell y'all out the nitty gritty. But I've been through some things to get my babies here. And I'm just grateful that the good Lord chose me to be their mommies. As always, I hope that this has helped somebody. And I love y'all. I'm going to get back to my sushi. Mwah.